So one of the projects that I really find compelling from CESMII is the smart manufacturing profiles, which kind of like are best off of, as I mentioned earlier, on OPC UA part 5. So first of all, I want to get a sense of why you chose sort of like OPC UA as an information modeling standard to best the manufacturing profiles, and maybe kind of like just give our audience a brief description of what we're talking about here when we talking about smart manufacturing profiles.
Yeah, maybe I'll start there.
Yep.
If I think for most of your audience, kind of UNS would be the starting place. So UNS kind of lives in what a data source emits. And like we said earlier, we want that to be well structured so that when it hits the broker, it is what we expect. The profile is an external document that articulates that expectation. That's all it is. It is the class definition and what a machine emits, the event the machine emits should adhere to that class or implement that class. It should be an implementation of the class. What MQTT does not have in the specification is an external class definition. Many IT languages and environments have this concept that first I define the class, then I instantiate the class. And if the instantiation does not match the class, often I'll refuse to compile, right? Or if I compile, I'm going to have a runtime error because of this mismatch. The profile is the external class definition. And I can implement it in an MQTT data source. I can implement it in OPC UA. In fact, I have to implement it in OPC UA. But I can really take this external document and implement it anywhere. In C#, in Java, in Python. It is just a class definition. It's an external authoritative document that says this is what the payload should look like. And it's a critical part of object-oriented programming. Any type-safe language will have this concept. As an aside, JavaScript is not a type-safe language. It's a prototypal language, so I don't have classes. I have prototypes that I inherit from, and I can be fully polymorphic, and I can change this object on the fly. And that's very, very powerful right up until I want to interoperate the data, serialize my JSON or my JavaScript object to JSON. Then I start to need things like a JSON schema. And that's what we've seen some of the mature players in the space do. Like HiveMQ is a broker, but it also has a JSON schema that I can apply to messages on the broker to ensure that the payload matches. It's just an external document that pre-articulates the namespace, the payload, that everybody can reference. The first part of the question, though, is why we chose OPC UA Part 5. And let me just highlight the Part 5. There's something like 17 parts of kind of the base OPC UA specification, and then there's these companion specifications that largely make up information models. The part that CESMII endorses is Part 5. Many of our projects use the other parts, but we are officially agnostic to how you transmit the data. The part that we have an opinion on is that you should have this external document that defines the class or the payload definition. Part 5 gives us that. Part 5 is just the information modeling part. And it describes two things: it's how to construct these things and the format for those files, which is called a nodeset2 XML. The nodeset2 XML is unencumbered by any licensing. Anybody can read it. Nobody has to pay tribute to OPC UA to use it. Anybody can import these documents. They provide free open source reference for serializing a nodeset2 to C# or to Java. It's literally just an open format that you can use to define an information model. Importantly, it can define component information models, like we were talking about earlier, parts of an information model. But the same language can be used to express an entire information graph. It scales elegantly from the smallest component definition all the way to being a serialization of a UML document that describes an entire enterprise. it's powerful, it's flexible, it's compliant with object-oriented programming environments. It's open and free to use, and you can apply it to whatever stack you want to use for your information project. Obviously, we have opinions on what some of the better stacks are, but our kind of base opinion is you should have a schema, you should have a class definition, and you should express it in an open format that other people are free to import so that they can understand your objects or your event payloads. That's why we chose UA Part 5. It was the only thing that met all of those criteria.